It's February 14th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with reciprocal tariffs by U.S. President Donald Trump. As widely expected, Trump has officially ordered his officials to increase tariffs to match the tax rates that other countries charge on imports. The tariffs, the White House says, will be customized to specific countries. The Constitutional Court decided to hold one more hearing next Tuesday for President Yoon's impeachment trial over his martial law declaration. If additional witnesses are called in, more than one hearing could be necessary, also pushing back the court's verdict on Yoon's impeachment to mid-March. Team Korea bagged 3 gold medals at the Asian Winter Games in Harbin on Thursday. Included are 2 golds in both men's and women's figure skating singles, a first for Korea in the Winter Games. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a plan to roll out increased import duties for every trading partner that taxes U.S. imports. The tariffs could be effective as early as April. Our Shin Ha-young reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump reinforced his push to impose reciprocal tariffs on global trade partners to match the tax rates that other countries impose on imports, fueling fears of a trade war. On Thursday, Trump signed a presidential memorandum ordering a comprehensive plan for reciprocal tariffs, aiming to deliver a level playing field for American workers.
On trade, I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them, no more, no less.
The latest announcement comes as part of Trump's aggressive push for more balanced trade following recent 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Trump's tariffs would also target countries with non-tariff trade barriers such as subsidies, burdensome regulations, and value-added taxes. Another element to be considered is exchange rate policies in countries. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said his team would be ready to hand a plan to the president by April 1st. Although South Korea has signed a free trade agreement with the U.S. and has eliminated most tariffs, Trump's plan to consider non-tariff barriers could lead to him imposing reciprocal tariffs on South Korea. South Korea posted a record trade surplus with the U.S. last year. Trump has also signaled potential tariffs on automobiles, with the White House also seeking to renegotiate the U.S. Chips and Science Act, which could affect South Korea's top 2 exports to the U.S., raising concerns about further economic impact. Despite fears of a global economic slowdown, Trump is expected to continue his hardline tariff policy. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
The Constitutional Court has decided to hold an extra hearing next week for President Yoon's impeachment trial to summarize the arguments. Now, if the hearings do come to an end next week, the ruling could come as early as March. Our Oh Seung has more.
The battle of narratives continued at President Yoon's impeachment trial as the 8th and initially last session was extended with another hearing scheduled for next Tuesday. Cho Sung-yeon, the head of the Capital Defense Command's first security group, said he had been ordered by his commander Lee Jin-woo to pull out legislators from the parliamentary building. Lee Jin-woo, who was questioned at the court last week, had refused to answer whether he'd been given such an order by Yoon due to his ongoing criminal trial, while the president has denied issuing such instructions. Defense Minister Kim Yong-an has claimed the order was to pull out agents or yoon, not legislators or 의원, while Special Warfare Commander Kwak Jong-gun said the president said persons or inwon. More conflicting statements emerged during the session. National Intelligence Service Chief Cho Tae-yong cast doubt over the claims made by his deputy last week that the president ordered the arrest of politicians on the night of December 3rd. Deputy Director Hong Jang-won has said he had heard 14 to 16 public figures named as targets for arrest by counterintelligence commander Yeo In-young, which he wrote down on a notepad outside Director Cho's residence. He claimed his secretary helped decipher it later, thus there were 2 notes in total. However, Cho says based on CCTV footage, Hong was not outside, but in his office at the time he said he wrote the memo. The director also said there appeared to be 4 versions of the note, seeming to suggest there's been some fabrication on Hong's part. Cho questioned Hong's political neutrality, adding he had heard last year in a parliamentary committee meeting that Hong had made 7 separate requests regarding personnel appointments to a former opposition party lawmaker who previously worked at the NIS under the last administration. On Thursday, former Seoul Metropolitan Police Commissioner Kim Bong-sik also testified. Kim said that he had deployed police to the National Assembly to ensure public safety and denied he'd been given orders to make arrests. As witness statements continue to clash, the president's side on Thursday reapplied for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to be called as a witness, whom the court rejected on Tuesday, and asked to re-summon Hong Jang-won. They also asked for National Police Agency Commissioner General Cho Ji-ho to be made to stand as a witness, as he failed to show up twice due to health reasons. Justices will review the new witness applications on Friday. So far, the court has accepted a total of 15 witnesses in the impeachment trial, 7 requested by the National Assembly and 8 by President Yoon's side. This compares to the 36 approved during former President Park Geun-hye's impeachment trial. For now, the court has scheduled a 9th hearing for next Tuesday at 2 p.m, where each legal team will have 2 hours to summarize their arguments. If the hearings conclude next week, observers say the ruling could be made in early March. Park Geun-hye's impeachment was upheld in 11 days, while former President Roh Moo-hyun's impeachment was dismissed in 14 days. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
So it'll take one more hearing for the court to deliver the final verdict and really decide the fate of the troubled leader. Now, why one more? We are joined by legal expert Kim Ji-soo. Welcome back, Ji-soo.
Thank you for having me again.
Thanks for joining us. Ji-soo, why do you think the court decided to have an extra hearing? I mean, any reason behind the court's decision? Why one or why not 2?
The court scheduled only 1 extra hearing instead of 2 because it likely believed that 1 more session is just enough to finalize this whole process without unnecessary delays. And basically, the court is aiming to wrap things up efficiently while making sure they've got everything they need to make a fair ruling. And that's why the court set up 8 sessions for the hearings in the first place, because they thought that would be enough to cover everything that it was important. However, they decided to add an extra hearing to clarify arguments, quoting, they will settle out some important documents and evidence that haven't been fully looked it over into yet in the 9th, giving them one last chance to tidy up their arguments before the final decisions. So the 9th hearing looks like as if it's the last straw. President Yoon's call for witness will be decided today, which shows a strong will for court to not extend any more hearings than 9th.
So it's going to be another crucial day next Tuesday. Now, what will the last hearing was supposedly focus on then?
The court will focus to make sure all the evidence has been properly looked over and that both sides have everything laid out clearly. And it's like a final review that no details are missed before making a big decision. And as for the key witnesses, it is unlikely that many of President Yoon's requested witnesses will be approved. The court is likely to stick with the evidence and testimonies that they already have. There was a talk about bringing in more witnesses from President Yoon's side, like Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, but that probably won't happen either since the court made a firm rejection of a called witness. However, we might see some people come back for a bit more questioning if the court thinks it's necessary, such as former NIS Deputy Director Hong Jang-won and a police chief officer Cho Ji-ho, as their testimony seems to be relevant in the court. So the decisions will be also made by this day of today.
Well, President Yoon's side again requests to bring in Prime Minister Han Duck-soo as a witness yet again. Ji-soo, do you think the court will accept the request this time?
Well, the court has already turned down the request to have Prime Minister Han Duck-soo testify once, and it looks like they will probably do it again. Basically, they don't see his testimony as directly relevant to the main issues of President Yoon's impeachment, like whether there was a violation of the Constitution or an abuse of power. However, President Yoon's team seems to pushing it for anyway because it might be a strategic turnout, or it may sway public opinion, or it might set up a basis for challenging the court's decision later on.
Well, in the meantime, Yoon's side also has appointed 3 additional lawyers. That increases the total number of representatives to 22, at least 22. What does it mean to have more legal experts, especially when the trial is coming to an end?
Well, we need to first look into the lawyer's background. President Yoon's team has brought in someone like attorney Jeon Byung-kwan, who's got first-hand experience with impeachment trials where he have represented former President Park Geun-hye. So by adding lawyers who are familiar with the constitutional court's process, the team is clearly looking to strengthen their strategic approach. However, when it comes to is bigger always better, it's like when sports team adds more star players. It's great on paper, but what really matters is how well they play together. And more lawyers mean more brains to strategize, but the challenge is making sure they all sync up and work effectively as a team.
So for now, there is just one extra hearing scheduled for next Tuesday. So even with one more hearing on the 18th and more witnesses you just mentioned, the impeachment trial is expected to wrap up in March, would you say?
Yes, I would say with one more hearing on the 18th, the direction of today's decision on new witness is quite crucial. And if no additional witnesses are added, we're definitely on track to conclude the trial will be wrapped up in March. And what will happen next if new witnesses like Prime Minister Han Duck-soo are approved, the timeline could extend, potentially delaying the conclusion. Otherwise, the 8th could be our final session. And as for the consequences of the court's ruling, if the court rules that President Yoon is guilty, this could lead to an election in May. And if the court rules in favor, he would return to the office immediately.
Alrighty, Jisoo, thank you so much for connecting with us. As always, you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Job growth in South Korea perked back up in the first month of the year, but some sectors saw big declines. Data from Statistics Korea on Friday showed that there were 27.8 million people in employment in January. That's a rise of some 135,000 from the same month the year before. This is due to jobs being added in healthcare and welfare, as well as professional, scientific, and technical services. However, jobs in construction saw the biggest decline since the data collection began due to a slump in the construction sector, alongside a drop in manufacturing jobs despite booming semiconductor exports. North Korea started to destroy a reunion center for separated families near the inter-Korean border amid icy ties with the South. Seoul urged the regime to immediately stop its actions. Our Pansy reports.
The Inter-Korean Family Reunion Center, located at Kumgangsan Mountain, has been a symbol of peace, as it has been used to host tearful reunions of families separated for decades by the Korean War. Since 2009, it has hosted 5 meetings between families from the two Koreas, and the last family reunion was held there in August 2018.
고마웠어요. 여튼 받아줘서 고마웠어요. 다시 만나요.
But on Thursday, the South Korean government said the North has begun dismantling the facility in the latest sign of strained inter-Korean ties, after the regime described the South as its principal enemy. The Unification Ministry spokesperson urged the North to immediately halt its actions, adding that the government plans to consider legal measures over the action and a joint response with the international community.
The demolition of the facility is an anti-humanitarian act that tramples on the wishes of separated families and a violation of South Korea's assets.
Upon an agreement between the two Koreas, the 12-story reunion center was built in July 2008 at a cost of over $35 million. The building was the last remaining South Korean-owned facility in the Kumgangsan Mountain tourist region, as the North has been demolishing facilities there over the past few years. After the Hanoi summit between the United States and North Korea ended in failure in February 2019, Kim Jong-un visited the resort area later that year in October and ordered the removal of South Korean facilities there, saying they were shabby and that they looked like makeshift tents in a disaster-stricken area. Since 2022, the regime has destroyed other facilities, including a hotel, a fire station, and a golf clubhouse, leaving only the reunion center, which it has also started to tear down. Arirang News.
The commander of the U.S. Space Operations Command said that North Korea's missile technology has become the biggest threat to the Korean peninsula, but warned Pyongyang against any attempt to challenge the ROK-U.S. alliance. Speaking to a Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency on Thursday, Lieutenant General David Miller expressed concerns over the North's continued development and launch of ballistic missiles. He stressed that it's difficult to predict what the North will do next, adding that the U.S. has been focused on detecting and tracking North Korean missiles. However, Miller says the South Korea-U.S. alliance is stronger than ever in the face of Pyongyang's threats, and emphasized that it would be a mistake to challenge the strength of the alliance. Russia has begun preparing a delegation for talks with the U.S. to stop the war in Ukraine. According to a Kremlin spokesperson on Thursday, Ukraine would definitely take part in the negotiations, but noted there would be also a separate U.S. Russia track. However, details regarding participants or the size of the delegation were not provided. This comes a day after U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed in a phone call to begin talks on ending the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine would not accept any peace deal made between the U.S. and Russia without its involvement. He also stressed that Europe should be a part of the negotiations. South Korean figure skaters proved to be #1 at the Winter Asian Games in Harbin on Thursday, securing golds in both the men's and women's figure skating singles event. Our Lee Seung-ja has more.
South Korea added 3 more gold medals to their tally on Thursday and made history in the process, winning gold medals in both the women's and men's figure skating singles event, which was a first for the country. Female figure skater Kim Chae-yeon and male figure skater Cha Jun-hwan both ranked second after the short program earlier in the week. However, both skaters came back on Thursday with flawless free skates. Cha scored 187.60 points in the men's singles free skating program, finishing with a final tally of 281.69 points for the top podium finish. Kim scored 147.56 points in the free skate to finish with 219.44 points overall, a personal best, beating 3-time world champion Kaori Sakamoto of Japan for the gold medal. Over in the men's snowboard halfpipe event, Mother Nature assisted South Korean snowboarder Kim Gun-hee on Thursday. The final was canceled due to blustery conditions, and officials awarded Kim the gold medal after scoring the best qualifying score of 78 points. The gold medal finish gave South Korea its 15th top podium finish at the Winter Asian Games and clinched second place in the medal rankings. With the Winter Asian Games in Harbin set to end on Friday, South Korea will look to add a couple more gold medals to surpass their all-time best gold tally. South Korea will compete for gold medals in both men's and women's curling. The men's team will face off against the Philippines, while the women's team will play China. Both the men's and women's team had previously defeated their opponents during the earlier round-robin play. With 1 day of competition left, South Korea is second behind China in the medal rankings, with 15 gold medals, 14 silver, and 13 bronze, for a total of 42 medals. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
Now, let's take a look at the stories from around the world with our Choi Ji-hee. Good morning, Ji-hee.
Good morning, Dami.
So, Ji-hee, let's start in the UK, where Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is visiting, and he's already held some talks with high-ranking officials there, right?
That's right. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made his first official visit to the UK in almost a decade and held bilateral talks with top officials. On Thursday, UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, marking the revival of the UK-China strategic dialogue after a 7-year halt. The talks encompassed bilateral economic cooperation, international security, and areas of contention. Lammy emphasized the importance of addressing issues where the UK and China do not always see eye to eye, stressing the UK's concerns in some areas. Key points included China's support for Russia amid the ongoing Ukraine conflict, human rights issues in Hong Kong, and the situation in Xinjiang. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also attended the meeting of 2 foreign ministers, highlighting the UK's dedication to establishing a consistent and respectful bilateral relationship. In the German city of Munich, a driver drove a car into a crowd, leaving at least 30 people injured. On Thursday local time, a white Mini Cooper plowed into a crowd at a trade union rally near Munich Central train station. The driver, a 24-year-old Afghan asylum-seeker, was arrested. The incident injured 30 people, including children, and several victims sustained serious injuries. Authorities believe the act was deliberate, though the exact motive is still being investigated. The suspect had a history of minor offenses, and his asylum application had been rejected in 2020. Yet deportation was deferred due to safety concerns in Afghanistan. Over in Panama, President Jose Raul Mulino said Thursday that the country received its first U.S. deportation flight the previous day, carrying 119 migrants from various nationalities, including China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. The initiative follows an agreement with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, designating Panama as a transit point for deported individuals. The migrants will be temporarily housed in a shelter in Panama's Darien region before being repatriated to their home countries. 2 more flights are planned, totaling approximately 360 deportees. Sports industry news site Sportico released its list of the highest-paid athletes in 2024 on Thursday, with Portuguese football player Cristiano Ronaldo on top for the second consecutive year with $260 million earned. Stephen Curry, Tyson Fury, Lionel Messi, and LeBron James completed the top 5. The top 100 athletes collectively earned $6.2 billion, marking a 14% increase from the previous year. Notably, no female athletes made the top 100 list, with the highest-earning woman being tennis star Coco Gauff, with total earnings of $30.4 million.
Welcome news for those waiting for some warmer weather. Temperatures will rise to around 10 degrees Celsius this afternoon in Seoul, making it feel much more like early spring. So let's jump right into today's highs. Gwangju also gets up to 10 degrees. Daegu, Busan will see a high of 12 degrees Celsius. It will be sunny to partly sunny in most parts, but the East Coast remains under a dry weather advisory. We are expecting decent air quality during the day, but the capital and Chungcheongdo could see dusty air at night. Both Saturday and Sunday will bring mild and comfortable conditions. Daytime highs will stay above norms. Meanwhile, Jeju and the South Coast could see some rain on Saturday. Don't put away those winter coats just yet. A cold front is set to arrive next week, bringing another round of freezing temperatures. Morning lows could dip below -5 degrees here in Seoul, reminding winter is not quite done with us yet.
That wraps up our morning edition of Arirang News. We will be back next Monday at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.